It is Blaine and Zach on a roster cut down Tuesday, and we have some Tennessee Titans breaking news here on 104.5 The Zone. I heard this is you. This is what I was told, that this is you.
You think I can do that?
I don't know. That's what Reed said. Reed told me behind the scenes this was you. But we have some breaking news. But first, we're brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Stores here on 104.5 The Zone. According to Jordan Schultz at Schultz Report, breaking, the Rams are trading linebacker Ernest Jones to the Tennessee Titans per multiple sources. Adam Schefter has just put out a tweet backing that up. So right then and there, we got Tom Pelissero as well. Yesterday, Blaine was totally against this idea when I brought it up, but we'll see what the compensation is. We don't know what the compensation is. We don't know if there's a contract involved as well, or if this is a good faith trade, kind of like Matt Judon.
Well, you have to do a contract, because then what did you trade for him for?
Well, that's what we got to see. They picked up a 7th round pick, from Malik Willis. We don't know what the trade is yet, but once we find out, we'll get that.
They must have been real unhappy with the linebacker situation. The reason why I said that is because I was trying to play the odds. The guy's a real good player, obviously, over 100-something tackles, 4.5 sacks last season. Wasn't that. It was more so you already signed Murray, and you could probably get away with this season, continuing to develop some younger players opposite Murray. So that's what I was calculating on. But I also was playing the hedge that they wouldn't pay the guy. He has to make more than $10, $12 million. That's more than Murray. Hey, I'm telling you, the dynamics in the locker room, not unless you got a good locker room, you come in, you got Murray, and then they're going to see this guy, and they go, whoa, hey. So he comes in right as a leader at a position of leadership, middle linebacker. That's always tough transition. So in the middle or right before a season to get somebody up to speed. So any other positions, quarterback, center, middle linebacker, and free safety. I don't like them at the end. Guys who are the quarterbacks of what they do, it's always a tough transition. Like, ask Kevin Byard. Watch Kevin Byard last year with the Titans, and then when they traded him to Philadelphia, he didn't even look like the same player. See? It matters. Chemistry matters. And guys who are in the seat of changing and calling plays, it matters. And it can slow your play down and make you not play as well as your ability says.
Well, don't you think they'll probably let Kenneth Murray carry the green dot for a little bit before switching it over to Ernest Jones? I mean, wouldn't that be the smart move? Would you even have to transition?
Well, that's true, but that's still transitioning. Well, if you're going to give him the green dot, then just leave it be and let him keep being the face of the guys looking in the huddle, and don't even give it to him till next year.
Yeah. Which is fine. And listen, Kenneth Murray is under a 2-year contract, but there is a contract that can be moved on from after the year. It's essentially a 1-year contract.
Is it for 8 or not? What is it?
It is 8 per year.
8 per year.
But, we don't know what Ernest Jones is. Yeah, we don't really know what he was demanding. We're talking about
a player. To South Carolina, right?
Yeah, South Carolina. He was drafted in the 3rd round in 2021.
Solid player.
He's a very solid player. He really cranked it up last year in year 3. Year 2, he was very solid. And that's when he first got the start and everything in year 2, full-time starter. I don't think the compensation will be too outrageous, because I do think he can point at like Azeez Al-Shaair or, Patrick Queen or some of these guys that recently got contracts, but hasn't proven over a length of time that he's as good as them. Maybe Azeez Al-Shaair, but that was an overpay, in my opinion, for Azeez Al-Shaair. And I was a big Azeez Al-Shaair supporter, defender throughout his time here at Tennessee. I wanted them to sign him.
He gave him. Yeah. He's a good, solid player. Right? There's nowhere. He's not nothing special. But he's a good player. I didn't like him getting penalties after plays. He cost him a couple of drives. To me, those were points. And I've been a former defensive player. If you cost us points, you're in trouble. And then you did it multiple times. And you're a veteran player. Unacceptable for some of those penalties he got. But he was aggressive. That was for sure. But he was, he's a good player. But he's not. I think this guy's a good player. But
it's a considerable.
Maybe they didn't. Chance Campbell and Cedric Gray out may have factored into this.
Yeah, it's a considerable upgrade over Jack Gibbons. Don't you feel a lot more comfortable with Jack Gibbons as your number 2?
He's really the backup in this league. Yes, I have no doubt about that.
Your rush defense is much improved. That's one of the big things about Ernest Jones is that he had 47 defensive stops last year, which is really, really good for a linebacker. Because everybody thinks that tackling is like the big thing for linebackers, but it's really more about defensive stops and, what you could do out in coverage nowadays. Tackling is important. You don't want missed tackles, but if you're tackling someone, that may mean that you let someone get a little past you or something like that, depending on your average depth of tackle. But I look at it and I go, he can also generate some pressures for you as well. He had 33 total pressures last year, so that's 4.5 of them were sacks, but 33 total pressures last year. That's big for this team. This team that loves to blitz linebackers. You got a guy that's proven that he could do it on the field, and you got him and Kenneth Murray. This defense is getting me a little maybe too excited, Blaine. This is where maybe the fandom is showing up, a little bit emotional fandom. But I really like this move, depending on what the details are. We haven't got the details yet.
Well, no, he's definitely a quality starter in this league, but I'm not, going to get too excited. I haven't seen him play, and I didn't watch him play last year. I just looked at his stats, so I can't tell you how really good he is in coverage or not. Obviously, he's got some really good stats, and it's always more to it when you look at the stats. So all I can say is, wow, I'm wondering if they just gave up a 7th round that they just got.
Yeah.
So is there more to come? When I say that, I'm talking about there's more players maybe traded or somebody's traded to us. It's kind of interesting. It tells you that the organization started with Rand, who's probably making all the football decisions, that they really felt like they need a proven young starter in this league at middle linebacker, with the players of Gibby really being a backup and the younger guys still needed some more time, whether you're talking about Reeves or you're talking about James Williams, whoever you may be talking about, and more special team core guys until they get ready. That's what I'm saying. What are you giving up? Because if you're just bringing them in on the trade value and just for the trade, it had to be a late pick, but are you now about to pay him? And they have the cap space, so don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's well worth it if you're going to make the trade than to pay the guy.
Yeah. I wonder if it's more of a Matt Judon situation. I don't know if you recall what Matt Judon said after he got traded to the Falcons. It kind of got washed under the rug a little bit.
He hadn't got paid yet, has he?
No, but he said, I haven't done anything in a Falcons uniform. Why should I worry about getting paid?
No, that's just speak talk.
You think that's just speak talk?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, they traded for you for a reason. So now,
but he's taking the opposite approach of Hassan Reddick.
That's what you say to the public. But do you believe him? Just because somebody says something, do you believe him? Like, think about this. Why was he holding out in New England? Why was he holding out?
Money.
Right. So why did it change? Just because he went to a different team? They know what he can do. The dude is 32. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So he has to say that because he wants to get on the good side, not only the organization, but also the fan base.
Is there something
So he wins in that statement because guess what? He knows he wants to get paid. And guess what? He knows they're probably negotiating with him right now. The deal may be, just so many millions apart.
What is there a disrespect portion to this, Blaine, in this Matt Judon situation where he feels disrespected by the Patriots, and that's why he gave them all kind of grief and kind of held out. But with the Falcons, like, well, new regime, let me put my best foot forward.
Yeah, but, you always want to do that. That doesn't mean he feels any differently. One thing that won't change about a player, and especially a guy that was a pass rush, he's a sacking machine, is that I got to get paid and keep up with what all my counterparts are making. And so whether it's here or somewhere else, it doesn't matter. But putting my best foot forward is being on a positive note. He's there. Have we talked to, is he practicing? Do we know?
Matt Judon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully they probably said, well, you practice. Guess what? They have 8 years of film. What do you mean? I need to prove myself in a Falcons uniform. Is this a joke?
Do you think that
really?
Do you think that's more of like, when I say that they don't have to pay him right now, it's more of like, you don't have to have the contract done at the trade? Because there's a lot of times it is like, okay, we're trading you with the contract.
You don't have to.
I think they'll get a contract done.
Right, yeah, it doesn't have to be done.
But I kind of look at it, to me, this is kind of where I get a little confused with GM talk and coach talk, right? So I don't know if you were listening during the Senior Bowl time. Mm-hmm. Chad Brinker and Rand Carthon went on the Official Titans podcast with Mike Keith and all of them. And Rand Carthon and him are both echoing and talking. This is before free agency, before the draft. They're talking like, hey, this is like a 2 or 3 year rebuild. This is a 2 or 3 year plan. And then all these moves scream like a team that is looking to win the division, not a team that is looking to be on a 2 or 3 year rebuild plan. I mean, isn't that how you interpret these moves that they've made? L'Jarius Sneed, Cheeto, the draft going with Tavondre Sweat, putting all this stuff, Tyler Boyd, Calvin Ridley, keeping DeAndre Hopkins here around. And, a lot of people thought he may get cut or traded.
So what do you mean win now? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I look at it like they're thinking they can compete a lot higher than what they kind of led us to believe they thought. And maybe I'm just not. Maybe this is where being a little naive could
here's
probably.
How I look at it. I think they're making these moves in this short window here because they believe they can be competitive. They're trying to get to the level of competitive. You have to stack draft picks and signings to really get your team where you need to be. I think they want to say, we want to be competitive, and if some breaks go our way and our quarterback gets developed the way he should with the talent we got around him, we can be a 10-win team, get into the playoffs, and guess what? Nobody will want to play you. That is what I think they're thinking based off their moves. I don't think we're talking about an offensive line has been restructured. I mean, watch this. Did any of these dudes start last? Oh, Skoronski, but he did the entire season. I mean, so I just think that they're trying to say we need to be competitive. You got to think about where we're at now. The AFC South is probably going to be one of the more competitive divisions. I mean, especially with young up-and-coming quarterbacks. So I think first and foremost, you're always trying to win the division. So they're trying to make sure they keep pace with the Texans. Because right now, if C.J. Stroud is up on his feet, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like it's. I think I maybe have some culture shock here because the Tennessee Titans are making a lot of moves that seemed taboo just a couple of seasons ago.
Well, it's because we're not used to seeing them making these many moves.
Yeah,
I think that's even over history of time since we've been here. So I like all the moves. I
think it's interesting because
but you got to get them together and mold them together now.
Right.
It takes time.
The last waiver wire deadline trade they made was when they traded for Dennis Daly, a 5th-round pick for Dennis Daly and a 7th-round pick. That was 2 years ago. That's the kind of trades we're kind of used to around here. And if you look at this linebacker room, the prior regime and maybe the prior couple of regimes probably would just rolled with this linebacker room as is and just said, got to coach the players that we got here. I mean, how many times have we heard that? So it's just, it's a culture shock, and it's an exciting thing to see that your GM is like, okay, we don't know where we're at with Cedric Gray. It's a nerve injury in the shoulder. Okay, so if you got that, use your shoulder to tackle a lot. There's a good chance that could.
They believe Gibby is not a starter in this league.
Yeah, they believe that Gibby's not a starter in this league, which maybe the prior regime,
they thought they could get by.
James Williams is not ready, which is probably the correct assumption, but he should make this team. And Otis Reese, concussion protocol, limited action, undrafted free agent just in the second year. Makes sense not to roll with these guys, but they see an issue and they immediately try their best to correct it. And you think about all the moves that we haven't heard about that they've tried to attempt. That's something that kind of gets lost in the shuffle. Just because you don't hear about it doesn't mean that they weren't like one of the other, so-and-so player gets traded and there was like, oh, well, there's 5 other teams inside, that were also interested.
They definitely were players in some other things. Yeah. It's rest assured of that. I'm interested to see if Burks is even out there. Is that a possibility? I don't know what you could get for him, but I'm just saying. I mean, they are making moves, and I like it. I like us. We haven't seen anything like that actually in Titans history.
Yeah.
Really. Movers and shakers. He's addressing all holes. I think really only holes are left really to address are backup tackle, a proven player, maybe another veteran corner who has some skin in the game, that in case they have some injuries to the guys who were brought in here at starters. And then maybe a every down pass rusher. Like, just think about that. That's not a lot. Now, you may want to still address, I don't know how they feel about safety, maybe backups. I mean, I haven't seen very much of Jamal Adams, and I said if he's not healthy, then they got him for cheap, so it was a no-brainer. So wait to see what comes with him. But other than that, I think they've kind of tried to address all holes, at least to get them through this season. And, man, you just never know. In the National Football League, man, when you got the football guys on your side, you just never know. And Levis gets hot, and then next thing you know, he's cooking. I mean,
in the press conference after Vrabel was fired, Ren Carthon said the famous phrase that got critiqued heavily, the ball just didn't bounce our way. Mm-hmm. It really seems in this free agency in this draft, the ball is bouncing their way right now. I mean, things are happening, dominoes are falling in their favor, which may not have always been the case for the Tennessee Titans, and it's not always the case for every team in free agency. But hey, Chance Campbell goes on IR. Well, here's a disgruntled linebacker on another team you may be able to trade for cheap. You may have to pay him, but trade for cheap, and he's a proven commodity. Okay, well, there you go. You need a wide receiver? Oh, well, Calvin Ridley, here. We'll give you. We have some money. We'll give it to you. L'Jarius Sneed. We only have to trade a third-round pick in next year's draft. Like, all this stuff just kind of, it's the perfect storm. And sometimes for a team that has been through off seasons like the Tennessee Titans have been through, the perfect storm is what you need to get back on track. And it seems like the Titans are in that. They're in this perfect moment. And this could be, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I know people are going to be like, oh, you're fanboying out or whatever. Yeah. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But this is like one of those, Vrabel said that they were in a fork in the road moment a couple of years ago and they took a wrong turn. This seems like they took a right turn.
Oh, yeah, I believe that. And Jones, just think about this. Is Jones better than Z's?
I think so. I watched a few of the Rams games last year. I had Puka Nacua in fantasy.
Won, and he's cheaper because Z's got, $11 million per year? And so I don't know what he's going to get, or maybe he doesn't even get a contract.
Well,
let's play it out.
Even if they signed Azeez and Danico, that may have meant no Calvin Ridley.
Right. See, so they kind of played the card. They hedged their bets in the right direction, even if it happened, on a happenstance. So we shall see, but it's definitely exciting times. I still, a receiver, even a tight end kind of situation is not settled either. I would love to see a veteran guy coming here who's kind of a really good player, like I've said, CJ, but it doesn't have to be him. It could be someone like his career or somewhere there, like just a good, solid player in the National Football League. Once you start putting a whole bunch of really good, solid players in that football league, and then you have your superstars and your quarterback get into a flow and rhythm, they've done a lot really with a coaching change and their coaching in a short period of time. So it's exciting alone just to see how this looks when they start the season.
And then, of course, we got the waiver claims that go through tomorrow at 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. And they are 7th overall in there. So then Rand said that he was going to be active on the waiver claims. There's a lot of players that were released, and there are some that are waived. For those that do not know what released means, that means that they are vested veterans. So if you see someone released, that means that they can immediately be signed. If someone is waived, you have to go through the waiver process where the Titans can claim.
Is there any quarterbacks that's gotten waived yet that you like, maybe that they could bring in to compete for two?
Yeah, I mean, like if you want to put a claim in on Bailey Zappi, I'm all in. No. I think Bailey Zappi has shown enough in poor offensive systems up in New England that if he clears waivers, Bailey Zappi clears waivers, I'd be very surprised. And if the Titans don't claim him at 7th, I'd be very surprised. But maybe they look at a guy like Brett Ripien, who just got released from the Bears. And there's a guy that you could bring in and get some scouting 101, on your opponent for week 1. But there's all kinds of names. So we'll hit some of the names after the break. We also have Dave McGinnis, Coach Mac, on with us at 2:20 p.m., brought to you by Two Rivers Ford. I'm Zach, he's Blaine. This is Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone.